hopefully you have your popcorn because this is going to be a little bit longer of a video than what I normally have on this channel. Hey fish friends, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Zenzo from Tazawa Tanks. Now for those of you that have been following me for a long time and have been viewers of this channel, you know that I have a fish room and I have other aquariums upstairs in the house, and that I've been expanding this room over the years and have done some remodels and some different variations. Now it has been quite some time since I've done kind of a full tour of this fish room, and I've made some videos where I've kind of done like just a general overview, but I haven't done tank by tank specifics in quite some time. And a lot of you have asked for that. A lot of you have asked for a video that showcases my tanks and for me to talk a little bit more about them. So today I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about each of my aquariums, both down here in the fish room and upstairs. Now, one thing that I do want to share is that all of this is made possible by you guys, the viewers. Your viewership really does help kind of fuel this channel by you hitting that like button, by you subscribing to this channel, commenting. All of that really does help. In addition, Aquarium Co-op has done a great job of remodeling this fish room along with Dean's fish room. And we also have support from Fritz Aquatics and Extreme Aquatic Foods. Now I thought that it would be fun if we go ahead and start from the top down, which is actually 3 floors up. So we'll start up there, work our way down back here to the fish room. All right, well, we are starting in my office. So my office is on the 3rd floor, and this is where I spend the majority of my time. I work from home, and this is also the room in which I do all of my video editing. And I have some tanks in here just to kind of have a little bit of slice of nature and to have some peace and some fish. I've got a betta in here. You can see this beautiful blue betta. It's quite old, to be honest. I don't know how old it is. I don't remember. I've had it that long. I also have a bunch of guppies in here. Just guppies are beautiful. They're super easy to take care of. They reproduce. So I have kind of like a little bit of a dark water tank with this dwarf aquarium lily that I got from Aquarium Co-op. And just have a bunch of guppies in there. This is an unheated tank. The betta is heated, but that is an unheated tank. And then I have this little mini pond that I made a video about recently, and created this mini pond that also has guppies in there, also unheated. It's room temperature, so it's, you know, high 60s to mid 70s depending on the time of the year. So not super cold, but not a heated tank. But just great to have these little water gardens in my office. It really does help. Now we're down in the living room where I have some of my display tanks. So I've got my planted tank, my Tanganyika tank, and what used to be my Malawi tank, but now my Oscar tank. Now this is my planted tank, and I have to say that I did not prep any of my aquariums for this video. So I want to put that out there. I didn't trim plans, I didn't clean aquariums, I didn't even wipe the glass down, which I probably should have. So everything that you see is how it is. And this is my planted, kind of high tech. It's got high light and CO2. That is on a timer in this aquarium. Lots of different fish. I've got cardinal tetras, I've got gold neons, I've got stir-by corridoras, Bolivian ram, plecos, discus, all kinds of things in there. Now we're over at my little kind of favorite chair that I sit in and kind of observe these 2 tanks. This is my Tanganyikan shell dweller and Bachardi tank that I've made many videos about. And I actually made this background. It's a DIY background. I've actually had these shell dwellers for many years. I think I first got a batch back in the summer of maybe 2016, and I made a video showing, you know, one of the early tanks that I had. It's just a group that, you know, just bred, and now I've got hundreds of them. Here you can see they're feeding on some live baby brine shrimp that I hatched in my brine shrimp hatchery downstairs. But just a super fun tank, lots of life. And even though the colors are muted, very enjoyable. Now, this is my Oscar. This is Ebony. He was downstairs with 2 other Oscars, but because of aggression, I had to separate them, so I moved a bunch of fish around. Previously, I had African cichlids in this aquarium, and you know, those of you that have been following my channel for a long time maybe remember when I used to film every video in front of this tank. when it was full of peacock cichlids. But just a really beautiful Oscar. It's still growing. I've only had it for maybe about 16 months or so or less, so growing quite rapidly. They were super tiny when I got them, but just a fun fish. And then outside on my patio, in San Francisco, I don't have a backyard, but I did build this pond. It's 500 gallons essentially. It's 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, and 2 feet deep. And I do have one koi fish in there, which I've made videos about, and several goldfish and shabunkins in there. As you can see, they're kind of feeding. I didn't get a good chance to film them with the proper sunlight due to the fact that the time is changing and there's less sunlight hitting this tank, but it's very easy to filter. I use live plants to filter this aquarium or tank or pond, but tons of fun. I love this pond. Okay, well, hopefully you enjoyed that little teaser of a video showing you my office aquariums and those beautiful display tanks that we have downstairs in my living room. Now we're down in the bottom level, which is the garage / basement level of the house, and we are back here in the fish room. Now, some of you right now might be looking at my t-shirt and saying, wow, that's a pretty awesome t-shirt, and you would be right. This is a super, super dope t-shirt. And this t-shirt is actually the sponsor of this video. So I would like to thank Into the AM, which is a clothing company. It's a group of artists and creators that have developed this company to make some really cool designs for t-shirts. They had reached out to me and showed me some designs, and I saw this and I said, yes, absolutely, I could support that. Amazing artistry, and just had to have this t-shirt. So I do have a link down below to for you to shop at Into the AM and support their company and also get a discount at the same time. Tons and tons of designs, not just t-shirts, but hoodies, face masks, all kinds of things that they have available with literally dozens and dozens and dozens of different amazing designs. So go ahead and click on the link down below and check out Into the AM. All right, now let's take a look at some of the amazing fish tanks down here in this fish room. Now here we are in the fish room. Before we get started, just a couple of things. I do not have heaters. I heat the room, so you won't see heaters in any of these aquariums because the room is kept at 80 degrees. So I've got multiple aquariums down here. I believe I have 23 the last time I counted, but I'm not sure exactly. I think there's 23. So let's start off with my Malawi Mbuna tank. These are larger Mbuna. For those people that have visited this fish room before have marveled at how large some of these Mbuna are, and they are very, very big. This is a 75-gallon aquarium, quite overstocked. And that was due to them breeding, not the fact that I tried to have lots of them, but just they reproduced, and because of good quality water, water changes, and cover and food, they have successfully bred and lived in here. So it's just a fun Mbuna tank. Down below, I have my 5-star generals, probably one of the most popular aggressive cichlids that I've ever kept. As far as viewers are concerned, people have reached out to me trying to buy the fry that these have produced, and I actually sell these, sell the babies of these fish at a local fish store. You can see brilliant colors. They are a West African cichlid, very aggressive though, but just a beautiful fish. The coloration is amazing. They're very good parents, very protective, and they have quite a bit of a personality too, which I do enjoy. Now this aquarium has changed recently. It was kind of a black water tank. And there's not a lot to see in there, and the reason why is I took all the inhabitants out and put it upstairs in a planted tank, with the exception of one bristlenose pleco that is in here and one dragon puffer. So those of you that have seen the video recently of the dragon puffer, you know that I got a dragon puffer. It is an ambush predator, and I hardly ever see it. This was one time when I was doing a water change and I happened to catch it, so I grabbed my phone and just filmed it real quickly, but I don't often get it on camera, but it is a beautiful fish when I do get a chance to see it. Now, probably one of my most popular setups is my 75-gallon Brackish paludarium. I do have some Brackish tanks. Brackish is a mixture of freshwater and saltwater. Here we can see my Brackish tank, my 75-gallon system, and in here I have a figure-8 puffer, and I have some African mudskippers. Now this beautiful figure-8 puffer, the name of the puffer is Poe, because it says Po on the back. If you look at the markings on the back of the fish, it actually spells out Po, P-O. So named by the viewers of this channel, but just a beautiful, fun fish. And then in here, I do have the African mudskippers. Now, these are the African variant. They are very large. They're not for everybody. And they can be quite aggressive, very similar behavior to cichlids. They are a goby, so they are a true fish, even though they can absorb oxygen from the surface without having to be in the water. They are a true fish, but they do spend more time out of the water versus in the water. You can see one's kind of swimming around, grabbing a bloodworm, trying to steal it from the figure-8 puffer. But they do spend the majority of their time out of the water. As long as they're wet, they are fine. And diet, you know, they eat pretty much anything. Anything that moves or doesn't move, they will try to eat it. But they don't bother Po because Po is too big. Now here we have another Tanganyikan tank. This is kind of a rock-dwelling tank that I created. In here I have some Julidochromis, and I have some Calvus. Now the Calvus for a long time were super shy. They have been, over the last few months, kind of more and more out and about when they know that I'm gonna feed. But for probably a good year or so, I hardly ever saw them and didn't even know that they were still in the tank for quite a while. But here you can see, obviously, that I do have a few of them. I've got 4 of them in here, the same as that I started with, and lots of Julidochromis. I started out with, I think I had 3 or 4 Julidochromis, and they spawned, and so there's multiple generations in there. No more, though, as I'm sure that the Calvus probably predate on the little tiny babies, if any hatch now. But just a fun 29-gallon tank that's just decorated differently with dry rock, dry coral. Down below, probably my most rare fish that also is hard to see. These fish were actually a gift from Steenfod Aquatics. Bob sent these to me as a gift. So thank you to Steenfod Aquatics for these. These are my top hat blennies. They are actually a brackish water fish. Sometimes they're sold in the hobby as freshwater, but they do not do well in freshwater. They like the brackish water. Here you can see it's actually eating some algae that I scraped off the glass earlier. It is grazing on algae. I will feed these algae. I'll feed them spirulina flake, seaweed flakes, and also some brine shrimp you can see. Now here's the other one, is poking its head out of that little hole there. That one always stays in the hole and just kind of darts out and eats food and then goes right back in to his hole, where the other one is a little bit more brave and is out and about. A little bit different coloration between the two. Now here we have another brackish system. This is a 55-gallon brackish paludarium-ish setup. You can see on top there are some crabs, and down below there are some mollies. So this is brackish water. Originally I was going to do all sailfin mollies, but couldn't find females, so it's just kind of a blend now. And I have a bunch of fiddler crabs that run around all over this tank. They climb on the top, they're in the bottom in the water there. They're excellent scavengers and cleaners, and just a fun tank to see the diversity between the crabs on the land and then the fish in the water. Now here we are, you're seeing a theme, another brackish system, and this is also a paludarium, and these are my Indian mudskippers, similar to the other fish but much, much smaller and not as aggressive. Very fun little fish. This is a 40-gallon system. You can see the mangrove growing out of the brackish water into the light there. And down below I have bumblebee gobies, so I guess you could say this is an all goby tank. I've got some snails living in there as well, and I built that waterfall. That's actually part of the filtration. Here you can see that it's grazing on some brine shrimp that I put on the rock. I always feed the mudskippers these ones on the surface, and so they'll eat right off the rocks, and sometimes they'll even eat right out of my hand. If I put some flake food in my hand and put my hand in the tank, they'll actually jump onto my hand and eat right out of my hand. So very, very funny fish, very cute, a joy that I love this tank. This is probably my favorite system as far as aesthetics are concerned. Here you can see the bumblebee gobies. There are, I believe, 8 of them in here. I got these maybe a couple years ago, year and a half ago or so, and they've been doing well in here. They do well in brackish water as well. and will eat the same food that the Indian mudskippers eat. Here we have my gold ocellatus. These are actually originally, I believe I had 5. I lost 2 very early on, and I've had these 3 for, I guess, a year or so, or longer maybe now. I will try to get my hands on some more and have a colony. These 3 get along just fine. I've got lots of hiding places behind rocks, as you can see there. There's shells all over the place. There's shells behind the rock. So I'm going to try to get maybe 2 or 3 more so I can hopefully have some breeding going on, but not sure if that's going to be possible due to aggression if I have too many, as they are more aggressive than some of the other shell dwellers. But a beautiful Tanganyikan fish nonetheless. I really do enjoy these, and they are quite bold, not as shy as some of the other shell dwellers, like these, which are my multifasciatus, Neolamprologus multifasciatus, often called multis. They are a shell-dwelling cichlid from Lake Tanganyika. And like the ones from upstairs, this is just kind of an overflow tank from upstairs. And I had continued to breed them and brought some downstairs. There you can see some little babies swimming amongst the shells there. And I often sell these locally. Now down below, I just kind of have some extra tanks. These are kind of like holding tanks, quarantine tanks, grow out tanks. Kind of like if I need a tank quickly for something. Here we can see that lone mudskipper that was donated to me not too long ago. That was too large for the Indian tank and too small for the African tank. It is an African mudskipper, but really didn't fit in with any of them. So I just created its own tank for itself. And then here you can see these are the fry, which are baby fish from the 5-star generals that we saw earlier, those West African cichlids with the beautiful gold and red and blue colors. So these are their babies, and when they grow out, I will sell these to the local fish store. So they're probably a few weeks away from being bagged up and brought to the store. I sell them wholesale, and then they sell them retail. I do have a guppy tank down here just because, guppies are fun, and love to have a little planted tank with guppies. It's very easy. This planted tank kind of cares for itself. I throw in some fertilizer every now and then and feed them and do water changes every now and then. And this tank just blossoms and does well. These fish are just beautiful and brilliant, and I love them. Now, I said earlier that the Indian mudskipper tank was probably my favorite tank as far as aesthetics. This is another brackish system. It's a kind of a rock wall that I created, and you can see some plants in there, some air plants and succulents, and I have some mangroves growing out of here. But in this tank is probably, at this point, one of my favorite fish, if not my favorite fish. This is a green spotted puffer. It is another brackish water puffer, and this beautiful fish has tons of personality, will eat right out of my hand. If I hold like a piece of shrimp or something, or a snail at the surface of the water, it will be bold enough to grab it out of my hand. And when you look at it from above, it's got this beautiful kind of gold green, as you can see here. And there it is, actually eating some bloodworms right out of the dropper there. So I don't like touching bloodworms, but it would take them out of my fingers if I chose to do so. But just a beautiful fish. I love this little guy. Now, this is a very exciting tank. This is my Psilocybe tank. Some people know them as Pseudotropheus psilocybe or Chindongo psilocybe. So I just call them Psilocybe not to upset anybody. They are a dwarf mbuna, also from Lake Malawi. That's a 75-gallon acrylic tank that they're in with lots of rocks. And what I love about these is there's lots of dimorphism, meaning that there's a significant difference between the males and the females. The males being blue, the females being yellow. So when they're babies, they're all yellow. As they reach maturity, they start to change color. If they are males, the subdominant males will be kind of a lighter hue of blue or even violet, and then the more dominant ones become darker blue. Down below, I've got a Congo tank. This is a 40-gallon breeder, open top with some duckweed and some driftwood and manzanita in there, and just a handful of Congo tetras. Originally, I was going to put these with the Oscars, but that didn't work out very well, so I decided to just have my own separate tank for the Congos. They were in with the 5-star generals at one time, but they were all hiding in the corner because the 5 stars were just too aggressive. But they live in there with a pleco. Now, this is my only saltwater aquarium that I currently have. I've had other saltwater tanks in the past, but this is my current saltwater setup. Just a very simple 20-gallon saltwater tank with a sponge filter. I've got some fish in there. I've got some invertebrates, snails, crabs, you name it. But just kind of a fun tank to have. I think I might be doing an upgrade in the near future. Possibly I might get a different light for this tank and maybe I'll do an anemone, or I might do some corals again like I did previously. But just, it's just different to have this tank. I do enjoy it. I like to sit by it, just kind of stare and watch the crabs kind of run around and fumble around and watch the shrimp eat things off the rocks and just enjoy feeding the fish. So just a fun, enjoyable little saltwater tank. Nothing fancy, not a fancy reef or anything. These are my Malawi peacocks, my African cichlids, Alanacara. You can see lots of different color variations there. Pretty much all of these I raised. I bred African cichlids for a long time for profit. I would sell them at the stores and kind of got out of it because it was a lot of work for not a lot of money. But beautiful colors. Most of these were my spawns, and just a few of them that I purchased. But mostly all males. I did keep a few females in there just for giggles, and it's been fine. It's very overstocked, as you can see, and this is one of the only tanks that I have a large canister filter in addition to sponge filtration. So everything else runs on sponge filters. I've got air plumbed through this entire fish room, but this does have a large canister filter to help with the filtration. This is another Tanganyika tank. I've got Brackish in this tank. This is a Brackish only aquarium, so no other fish, just so that I could have a tank just solely for them and not have them become too aggressive with any other fish. And if I decide to sell any, I can pull them out of this tank. They have spawn. There are a few generations in this aquarium as well. They can be quite mean to one another, though. They are pretty aggressive at times, and you can see some of them look a little beat up. I'm not sure if that's going to be captured here on film, but some of them have some nipped fins, and there's definitely a hierarchy and pecking order when it comes to these fish. But they are beautiful, beautiful finnage, interesting coloration. Maybe not as beautiful color-wise as other fish like the peacocks. There's usually less color in Lake Tanganyikan fish than there are with the Lake Malawi fish. But still, if we catch them in the right light at the right angle, there's golds and kind of violets that you can capture on these fish. So they are very fun, very enjoyable, and I like to have them. And I know that they're not readily available. Oftentimes people are asking me if they can, have some of mine, and if I can catch them and share them, I will. Now here we have some silver dollars. These silver dollars are being grown out to be sold, or not sold, I'm sorry, they're being grown out to be put in the Oscar tank, which we'll see here in a moment, just because I wanted some fast dither fish that would do well with the Oscars. I got these maybe a couple of months ago, and they were very small. I've been power feeding them and doing lots of water changes. They are voracious eaters. They'll eat anything, any plant, and they've grown tremendously, and they're going to be in this tank next. So here we can see the Oscar tank. And in here we have Felix and Ivory, and they've paired off. They've tried spawning a few times without success. And then I do have some other small catfish and loaches in there that kind of hide in the wood there. But eventually when those silver dollars get larger, they're going to be in here just to kind of add some dynamic movement and things like that, just to have some additional dither fish in the aquarium. So anyway, let's just enjoy this beautiful Oscar here, and hopefully enjoyed looking at all of my aquariums in the fish room. Well, if you've made it this far, thank you. I know it was a longer video, but I did want to be a little bit more thorough and detailed in showing all of the tanks, or pretty much all my tanks, and kind of talking a little bit, briefly albeit, but just talking about every one of my tanks. Comment down below if there is a specific tank that you would like to get more info on. Chances are I've made several videos about those tanks already, and you can find them in my catalog of videos. But if you would like some more information on a specific tank, I could consider making another video highlighting a specific tank or showing you the link to the videos that I already made. If you like this video, please give it a like. It really does help, as I shared before. If you have not done so already, please subscribe. That's all I had for now. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.